Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lettered Classroom. I am so excited to have you all here. Tonight we have a really good conversation that's going to end up happening, and we're going to talk about ELA extension activities. So if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Bridget Spackman. I am a multi-teacher in Central Pennsylvania, but this year, due to some of the recommendations and things that we've had to change with our school, I am only teaching 5th grade, but I teach 5th grade across all content areas. But my passion and what I love the most is ELA instruction, and I've worked really hard over the past few years to develop a method for literacy instruction that works for upper elementary and lower elementary. And this is all behind this idea that reading and writing should not be taught separately and they should be integrated together. And this method is called the bridging literacy. Now, if you are not following the bridging literacy method, it's okay. I still want you to hang around with us because I want you to get an idea of what bridging literacy is, what it can do for you as a teacher. But I also want to let you know that these activities that I'm going to be sharing with you are not just for bridging literacy people. So to let you guys know, I am just starting to wrap up the first unit in the Bridging Literacy series. Now, you're like, unit, what does that mean? Well, just to let you guys know, I do have the 4th through 6th grade ELA cheat sheet. And within this cheat sheet, what I did was I broke down all of the curriculum for reading and for writing into different units. So each grade level has 6 units that they are going to work on. There are 3 literature units, and then there are 3 informational units. So the first unit is all around personal narratives, and it's really getting kids to think about description and pulling that small moment and going into a lot of detail with that. The second unit goes into creative narratives, and I am very excited to start my creative narratives because the focus there is going to be all on characters, but I'm going to take this next, I think about a week and a half. I should be able to get it done this next week, but if not, if I have to pull it into the next one, it's going to be totally fine, into doing an extension activity. So, hi guys, welcome. I am excited to share these with you guys. I feel like I've been doing these for a number of different years, and they've always kind of evolved and they changed a little bit depending on the class, the resources that I have, the time that I end up having, but I really like extension activities. Now, some of you might think, okay, extension activity could also just be like a project, right? And the whole theory behind incorporating extension activities, and this is not just for your higher level kids, this is for all kids all around, is to get them to take what they've learned from that unit and then be able to apply it into like a bigger project. Just an overall, here's kind of the wrapping up of this entire unit, but also making it to where kids can be creative, they can have fun with it, and they can just kind of show off their personality and their creativity overall. So I really like these activities. My kids like them as well. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right on into it. I will be watching out for your questions, but I know that in the past, I've always had a habit of kind of chit-chatting with everyone, and I'm not gonna do as much of that. I wanna get into the meat of the content, and then at the very end, we will definitely do some Q&As so that you guys can ask some questions. All right, so let's get into the first one. I have 3 extension activities for you, okay? Oh, yes, and also, thank goodness Trent reminded me. So glad that he came to work today. So the first thing that I want to tell you guys is that I do have some resources. Now, don't get like incredibly excited. I do want you to get excited about the resources. I did not go above and beyond to try to make these incredibly perfect for everyone. It is like not TPT worthy is kind of the way that I imagine it, but it at least will help get you started so that if you want to start implementing these tomorrow when you go to school, you absolutely can do that. So Trent is going to drop a link in the description or the chat, and he is going to leave you a link to a freebie. Now, it has like 1 to 2, maybe even 3 resources for each of the activities that I'm going to be sharing with you. Now, for those of you who are watching this as a replay, the freebie is no longer available. So I only put a freebie up for the live, so only during my live chat, and for also my BLC members. So if you would like to become part of the Bridging Literacy community, you can also head over to theletteredclassroom.com and check out what that community all involves. Okay, so go grab the freebies. Let me show you what we have going on. All right, so like I said, we have 3 different extension activities. The first one is going to be a little bit more Halloween-y. And I am doing this one because I am just wrapping up my personal narrative. And I mentioned to you that with Bridging Literacy, the personal narrative is all around being as descriptive as possible, and getting kids to really utilize their 5 senses and pulling all of the different pieces apart. So here's what this activity looks like. Let's go ahead and switch our views. Okay, so in this one, this is going to be I'm really sorry about my haunted house, but this is a haunted house descriptive writing. And with this haunted house descriptive writing, the kids will end up creating their own little descriptive house, like their haunted house on paper. I like to have them do it on paper because I feel like it's just the kid in them that gets to come back out. No matter if they're 4th or 5th, 6th grade, they still like to do things like this. I just like hodgepodge mine together and I ended up messing it all up, but it's fine. So here's kind of the whole idea behind this. Now, if you are virtual, you can have your kids still do this virtually. If you want to have them utilize either some sort of software where they're using like Shape or their drawing software. We have iPads at my school, so the kids like to use Sketches School in order to be able to do their drawing. But because I am teaching in person, I will most likely have them do this because I feel like we're on iPads all day long. So here is the idea behind it. The kids are going to write a paragraph or 2 trying to sell a haunted house. So this is what I end up presenting them with, and this is in the little freebie pack for you guys. But this here is basically just a write-up where a real estate agent is just trying to sell a house. And so what we do is we kind of go through the writing overall and we pull out what did the writer, the real estate agent do to be able to try to sell it. So like for instance, they talk about the numbers, so that's really important. A complete bathroom, saying what does that mean? You almost have to infer that piece. Talking about how things are charming and what does that mean. So I love the language that's being used here. And it's also really interesting to talk about the price because this does not happen anymore. So we also kind of share what prices actually look like for houses nowadays versus way back when. So this is what I show them in the very beginning. And then I tell the kids, hey, we're going to utilize our 5 senses to be able to describe this haunted house that we want to try and sell. So the first thing we do is we talk about our audience. And with the audience, I want them to really think about who are they trying to sell it to. Well, obviously, if it's a haunted house, someone who is really into the scariness of everything, you know, might really enjoy that. So you want to try to sell that piece up. You're trying to sell it to like a Halloween, maybe not even Halloween, you don't have to use that term, but almost like a monster or a vampire, thinking of who you want your audience to be. And so once we identify our audience, who we're trying to sell it to, then we can start working on writing out some of our descriptions. So the kids will use this describe it here as their brainstorm. Now I like this graphic organizer because you can use it for just about anything. You do not have to use it just for this assignment. Try to keep it incredibly generic because then I can use it for other things as well. So what am I describing? They're gonna write their haunted house here. They're gonna write down the smells, the things that look, sounds, feels, and then tastes. So the kids would write down all of their ideas that they can come up with here before they start to do their writing. Now, typically, if my kids are starting to work on their writing, then I actually have them do that on paper or using like a Google Doc or something, just for like their beginning pieces. And so as they're starting to write things out and they're using some of those sentences, or we're reviewing different things that we've learned from the unit itself, afterwards, they're gonna get to use this pretty little pumpkin paper. So they will finish up their writing with this little pumpkin paper. This is where they'll add their entire writing here. And then I like to either post it like this, where it's just up and down, or I post it side by side. So either way, it just makes for a really nice activity for kids to be able to do, and they enjoy the whole theme with it. Now, I'll tell you guys, when I do this, I also put some like spooky music in the background because it just adds to the vibes, and it just is really fun and cool, and the kids get a total kick out of it. So I also want to mention, I feel like I'm talking at like 30 miles a minute here. I did this and Trent was like, "What is that?" And he thought he could do one so much better than me. And he started thinking like, you should do cotton balls for like the clouds and pretzel sticks for the fences. And he wanted to get super fancy. I didn't have time to get super fancy. So I'm very sorry about that. But it's a very easy, simple, fun activity that you could do with your kids while also kind of reviewing some of the skills that you've been working on over the past month or so. So super fun there. Okay, so that's the first extension activity that I have for you. Let me switch things around here so that I can share with you the second one. Now, the second one I like because it's not necessarily so themey. You can make it themey if you want to, but it's absolutely not a must to make this themey. So the first one is based all on descriptive and personal narrative. Now, if you're somebody who is getting into creative narrative, so you're already in Unit 2, you're already talking about characters there, then I have a really good project that you can use at any point from now until the end of the year. So let me show you what this one looks like. So with this one, this is called a character sketch. And with the character sketch, I have a very basic brainstorm. So the kids would read a text, whether it be a chapter book that's a choice, a picture book, whatever you want them to end up doing. And they would write out an entire sketch. So it goes into background information, which is really important, talking about the extrinsic characteristics of that character, going into intrinsic characteristics, and then their storyline. So what their storyline was all about here. Like I mentioned, it's very, very basic. Typically, I just give this to them either in a Google Doc, or I give this to them as a PDF and they're able to write it in Notability and then submit this to me. But once they have their character sketch, they're going to do an entire write-up on it. Now, these can really depend on what exactly you want it to look like. So excuse my drawing as I show you this one, okay? So here is a nice little foldable. I've always enjoyed foldables, and I did not finish this one all the way, but they're fun. And so this one, I was going to do it on Hermione Granger as my example. So you can see that I just added her name in there. I did a drawing of her. And just to let you guys know, to do this whole effect where it's like, it's split in half, all you have to do is cut everything out. And then I had it folded like this, glued everything down, took my scissors, once it was glued down, and just kind of cut it right across, and it just kind of adds this really cool effect and look to it. So once you have this outside portion here, you're going to want kids to include all of these different elements that you had them thinking about on their character sketch brainstorm, and they're going to include it here. Now, what's really fun is that you can have them do basic, just they can type it up and print it out and cut it on and paste it onto their foldable, or you can have them go above and beyond and show them different types of foldables, and it would be like a foldable within a foldable within a foldable. It's like an Inception joke there. So you can definitely have them add all of those pieces in here, and then I just post these up for everyone to be able to see, and the kids do a little presentation on their character overall. Super easy, very simple. This is just a like poster size neon, super bright in your face cardboard, a smaller version, and I just folded it, took the two sides and then kind of met it in the half to fold it up. It works really, really well, and the kids have enjoyed this one in the past. Now, I mentioned that you don't have to go themey, which this one is not themey at all, but if you wanted to go a little themey with either Thanksgiving or if you wanted to go themey with even like winter time, there are some ideas that you can definitely implement. So the first one is going to be the most creative of all ideas. And this one, I actually learned how to do this when I was teaching in Alabama. And the third grade teachers would do one all based around a pumpkin. Now, I know a lot of people have seen these in the past, but the kids basically take a pumpkin that either you can supply for them. There are versions like this, but there are also some that are a little bit smaller, and you can have, they're like $1 or $2, and you can buy them for your class so that they don't have to be able to supply that. Or you can ask families to do that themselves. So they have that piece. And they would decorate this pumpkin to look like their character. So I'm going to have Trent put an image of this right up on the screen because I didn't have one that was done, but Ian did one back when he was in third grade and he loved it. So his is a dinosaur, right? Wasn't it on a dinosaur? I think it was like
I can't remember if it was a dinosaur or a dragon.
I can't remember. Yeah, it was one of the like just it was a picture book, and he was really into dinosaurs. I want to say that it was like the, you know, what would the dinosaur do at night, or what would the dinosaur do at school, or something like that. It was those types of books, but they're really, really great. So that's kind of one idea that you can do there. And the kids love that. And basically they just do a write-up of the report. They kind of display their pumpkin character, and then they have just kind of a spot outside where they can show it off for other people to see. Or if you wanted to not do pumpkins, I totally understand that. You could do this idea of the turkey. So the turkey is in disguise. He's trying to hide out, and he's recently read a book all about this character, and so they decide to dress up as a certain character. So this is one that Ian and I did. It was on an astronaut, and I cannot for the love of me remember the character for this one, but you can have them dress up as the character, and then they could have their report right next to it that they could share with everyone for their character sketch. So that's another one. What?
Paula had a question about character sketch and students at home with their iPads.
Yeah, so they can still do the character sketch. So this is just a brainstorm to get them thinking about it. And so they can use, I have them use Notability. That's just what we use. If they have iPads, they can also use it's like the editing feature that they can just write on it on an iPad. I don't know, I can't remember what exactly that's called.
Image, I think, edit.
Yeah, it's just like an edit the image. They can take a screenshot, edit image, and they can just write on it there. And then if you wanted them to do this at home, they could do this at home. I know that some teachers have gone above and beyond and sent like the actual page for them and mailed it to them so that they have access to the actual printable piece, because a lot of parents don't have printers at home, which is understandable. Or you can just have them draw it using some form of drawing app online. I know that there are also like, what are they called? Like amiibos? I feel like they're amiibos. No, is it an amiibo? That's not right, because that's Animal Crossing.
You're playing Animal Crossing.
I am not playing Animal Crossing, guys. There's like where you can create your different characters. You can have them create a character using one of those crazy sites. I cannot for the love of me, no, I don't know the name of them. I'm the worst tech person. I'm very, very sorry. But that's one idea that you could end up doing. If you don't like that one, You could also do like a snowman if you want to dress up a snowman, or we have also done like a gingerbread man in the past as well. So kind of choosing from one of those versions to be able to kind of give kids some form of a project. If you're doing iPads, I personally really like Book Creator to do anything with, and the kids seem to really enjoy that as well. They also have like the Chatter, is it Chatterpix? I believe it is. Pix is how it's spelled at the end. And Chatterpix is another really great website that you can have the kids draw, and then they can kind of act it out by adding in their own, voices and lips. And it's just really, really cool. The kids are totally engaged with that piece. So a lot of different ways that you can really get kids to create a project around a character. Be creative, look at the resources that you have, that your school has, in order to get kids to kind of think outside of the box and put all of the pieces of the puzzle that you've been learning for the creative unit together. That is kind of the big focus here, is that you want kids to kind of see the bigger picture of characters that you've been working on and be able to apply it to, this one. It's just a big presentation project overall. So that's the second one, is to do like a character sketch. So the final one, it has to be my favorite. And the final one is going to be a character quiz. Do you guys remember? I feel I'm kind of old, and I feel like I know what these are. So like in the 17 magazines, when you would read those as like a teenager, and then in the very back they had like which movie star are you the most like, and you would have to take the quiz, and it would basically tell you who you are like. That's the same idea. I love this because it is incredibly higher level. Kids basically are creating a quiz to determine which type of a character they are, like you could end up being, and that kids could just end up passing it around to others to take the quiz. But they have to create questions, and then in those questions they would have to figure out how would this character respond to this question. So it really gets them thinking outside of the box. So let me show you what this one looks like. Okay, so here's mine. I am a little bit obsessed with Harry Potter. Sorry, guys. So here's what my little version ends up looking like right now, and here are the resources that come in tonight's freebie. So it's the which character are you? They would title the quiz here, and then they would write their 5 questions. From the 5 questions, they would have the 2 to 3 characters. I highly recommend 3 characters. I wouldn't do 2, just because I feel like 3 just takes them, it makes it a little bit more creative and above and beyond. So they would have their 3 characters, and they would have to build responses for each of them. So once they build their responses, their questions, and all of that piece to the characters in their book, then they would have to have the design the quiz piece. So this is the part where at the very end, you said if you have mostly A's, then you're like this person. If you have mostly B's, you're like this person. If you have mostly C's, you're like this person. So you are most like, and you would write their names here, and then they would write a description explaining how that person would be like each of the characters in this quiz, right? So you are brave, and you are funny, you rise up to the challenge, so on and so forth. So that's what they would write for each of these. See what I mean by it's a way higher level, but it's really fun. Now I did a version where it's basically a folded piece of cardstock. Now I did not finish it, so I apologize for that, but I feel like you get a pretty good idea of this overall. So which character are you? I just printed out a picture and to take the quiz, and then on the inside I gave you just a general idea of what a question would be like. So imagine being at school and a bully comes up to you at lunch. You're eating and chatting with friends when the bully takes the food and throws it on your head. What would you do? So A, stand up and push the bully. B, yell at him and run off somewhere private. You were totally humiliated. Or C, stand there in silence. You were too embarrassed to do or say anything at all. And so once they would answer all of the questions here, on the back would be like who you are like the most, and it would have the descriptions of each of the characters and what makes them like that character. Now, I did this on one sheet of cardstock. If you feel like that's not enough for your kids, I totally understand. It probably wouldn't be enough for my kids either. In the past, I've done it with much larger sheets. I think I've taken those really big, pieces of like construction paper. It's like the 12 by 16 or something like that. And I folded those, and those work out great. But if you want to take just cardstock, you can create a foldable with multiple sheets like this. So I'm going to show you guys how to make this. It's very simple. I feel like I had to take a foldable class in college, so that's where I ended up learning how to do this. Okay, so if you want to do it this way, instead of using a stapler, I feel like this just lays a little bit more flat and is just easier to work with. Here's how you do it. So you need 2 pieces of cardstock. You're going to fold each piece. So I'm going to quickly fold these for you. So I'm going to fold each piece. Now, one of them, what I'm going to do, they call this the mountain here. This is your mountain. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a little bit of space here, and I'm also going to leave another little bit of space here, and I don't want to cut that. So what I'm going to try to do is essentially just cut out the mountain from one end to the other while leaving space on either end, because if not, it would just split. So I'm going to very gently, I mean, it's like ever so slight. You do not want to take a huge chunk out, or else I feel like the paper moves around way too much.
Did you say cardstock? It was really nice.
I did cardstock, yeah, because paper is just too flimsy. So now you're going to see that I have a nice little slit here. And now with this next piece, I don't want to cut the middle part, but I'm going to cut a slit here and a slit here. So the slit that I have here, I want to be able to cut that same amount. So I'm just going to cut a slit, and I'm going to turn it around and cut another slit. So now you're going to see that I have my little slits here. And what I do is I fold it this way. It just makes it so much easier. I place it in, and you kind of have to work with it a little bit, but the slits will come through, allowing you to create a nice little book for kids to be able to use. Like I said, I like this way more than just using a stapler, because I feel like it just works so much nicer. But this is something that you can very easily do to be able to create a little character quiz, and then you can have them displayed. You can place them into your library. It's really fun for the kids to be able to take the quizzes to see who they like, and it also encourages kids to read some of the stories that other kids have read. So there's that idea. Now, if you wanted to take this virtually.
Yeah, see, they love the book setup too.
Did they?
Yeah, I did. I've never seen that.
Really, guys, have you never seen that? I feel like I could do an entire video on foldables. I know so many different tricks on how to create foldables because I'm a nerd, and I also bought a book on foldables too, so I have a lot of ideas. So yeah, I'm glad you guys like them. Okay, awesome. So there's the little foldable idea. Now, if you want to take it virtually, this is also as a one of the freebies in that little resource for this folder. And it's basically how to do character coding using hopscotch. Now, this was an idea that I got from our head tech lady at my school. So she kind of shared how to do this, and she did a project a few years back with students, and I love, love, love doing this because kids love to code. So if you have a kid who doesn't want to do it this way, they can absolutely do it in this format. So it kind of takes you through about kind of planning everything out, but then it gives them a, downloading the Hopscotch app, how to sign up for an account, and then how to go through and start with the coding process. So all of that information is there. And then I really like the extra challenge. So the challenge is to try to get kids to be able to make the hopscotch, the coding program, move all of the characters' responses around. So like all the A's right now would be Harry, right? And this, all the A's would be Harry. All the B's would be Hermione. All the C's would be Ron. But if I wanted to switch that up and change it, then I could program that using Hopscotch, figure it out. It's like an extra challenge for kids to figure out how to change that. So the directions on how to do the Hopscotch is in that folder in the freebie so that you can use that. I love this activity. It's probably hands down one of my favorites. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy that. I like this little project. I actually like how cute this came out. I think it came out really nice. And all I did was use Century Gothic. Super fancy over here. Okay, so those are my 3 big extension activities that I wanted to share with all of you. Now, I wanted to back up and let's talk about why it's important to use extension activities. Okay, I wanted to share that with you just so that for when people come in to watch the video, they have the information right away. But let's talk about the importance of extension activities. One, the importance of extension activities for me is that when I finish up with a unit, I'm meeting with kids one-on-one, and I'm meeting with them about their reading the post-assessment. So within the Bridging Literacy unit plans, if you're using our units, which look like this, okay? So if you're using these units, which are lesson plans for each of the specific units and has resources, books, everything is inside of here. If you're using those plans, at the end of it, you have a post-assessment. You have a post-assessment for reading, you have a post-assessment for writing. I use those post-assessments to be able to set new goals for my students for the next unit. Okay, it's really important to set goals with kids so that they know specifically what they need to work on. So I need time to be able to meet with my kids. These conferences tend to take me just a little bit longer because I'm going through each of their post-assessments, talking about what they did really well, talking about what they need to improve on, and then we're setting goals. So I don't get through them as quickly. Now, in order to be able to give myself that time, I do extension activities. I will do these types of activities. They're in class so that I can meet with my students. And then I'm also allowing kids to do like their book talks. So we have book talks, we have extension activities. And sometimes I will even, and this is like super far-fetched, and I do not recommend doing this like right now, I would give my kids a standard and I would say build a project around it. So they would have a choice board, which I didn't end up putting in that resource.
Angela was mad that you skimped out on one of the folders.
What folders?
You made one of them empty.
Did I make one of them empty?
Yeah.
Oh, and I even forgot to put a choice board in there for you guys because I even made that.
So you can add it. You can add it and they can go back and get it.
So great. So go ahead and make sure that you download it. After this is done, I'm going to give you a choice board, and then I will. Which folder was it?
I don't know. I have to go back.
I'm sorry, guys. I have a lot that I was trying to do. So I will fix that folder and then I'm going to add a choice board in there for you as well, because I will tell kids to just create an entire project around it. So they have a lot of different ideas for what they can do for their projects, and then they can build that and work on their own creative project that's more to their interest if you want to provide them with more choice. I recommend doing choice. I think it's really, it encourages them to kind of go based off of what they really like and bring in some of their interests. So we'll add that choice board as well into it. So it allows me to have that time, but it's also a really good way to have, other than just an assessment where they're reading and putting everything together, it's also a really good thing to put into a portfolio. So if you are somebody that in your district you're doing some sort of a portfolio, it's a great summative assessment, you know, all together, rounding it up. And I want to see what you can do with this creative project and placing it into a portfolio. The kids get they're really, really proud of this by the end of the year, with all of the different projects that they've ended up doing. So like I said, we'll add that in there. The other thing that I really quickly want to mention is that if you're following these units if you're following the Bridging Literacy units, please be very aware that there are quite a few days within this unit that are meant to last a little bit longer. Now, I strategically planned it to where it's like a day. But as teachers, we have to really listen to our students, and we have to pay attention to what they're doing, how they're responding to it, and take extra time if you need to. So a really good example of this is that about 2 weeks ago, I would assume it's almost 2 weeks ago, I was working on the first unit, personal narrative for 5th grade, and we were at the part where we're writing our hook. It's a descriptive writing. It's a, the beginning part of it, and we're writing it as a setting. So we're hooking our audience by describing the setting. Guys, that took me about 2 or 3 days to be able to get through. The first day, I wanted them to complete the graphic organizers. I checked those graphic organizers because I wanted to ensure that they had enough detail to be able to pull everything out for their hook. The second day, I modeled for them, they wrote it, and then I would provide feedback for them so that they could revise it. So like I said, it took about 2 or 3 days, and you want to really be mindful that you're giving kids enough time, and don't feel pressure that you have to go day by day. There are only 6 units with all of the standards that need to be taught, and even if I was to go day by day with every single one of these units, I would have about 2 months left of school with no unit at all. Now, granted, I start to do more book clubs towards the very end of the year, but you also just want to be really mindful that you're listening to your kids and you're spending the time that you need to spend and stretching those lessons if you have to stretch them. And extension activities are really great ways to get kids creative and get them thinking outside of the box, and to see if they're able to take the knowledge that they've gained from that unit and apply it into their overall project. So that is it, my friends. That's all I have as far, I'm going to do questions in a second. That's all I have for this part. So let's jump into some questions. What questions do you guys have?
They like the foldables. So
Yay!
Want more foldables.
More foldables.
Send a reminder about the freebie.
Okay. Yes, please make sure to get the freebie. Even if I've missed a couple of things, I can go in and add them, and then you can go back and re-download them. So that is still, so long as you've already purchased the freebie, it'll still be under your account when you go back in.
And then we set up the tip thing for the BLC members. Remember on Equid, where people could choose to do that, and I think we just hit $50.
Oh, really? That's great.
So I think that we should go and decide in Bridging or in BLC how we select somebody.
Okay, so something new that we've been trying out is that we have a tip where when you go to checkout, you can add a tip, and the tip goes towards providing teachers with Bridging Literacy access to the community. And it's just really beneficial, especially for those teachers who just don't have all the funds to be able to gain access to resources like this. I know that as a teacher in Alabama, when I first started, it was very, very rough. It was really hard to afford anything as a teacher, and especially a first, second, third year teacher. So we want to be able to help as many teachers as possible. And so in order for us to do that, we kind of put out there that if you want to leave $1, $5, whatever it is that you would like to leave, we would be able to give that to a teacher to be able to help them out and support them for providing the best possible instruction for their kiddos. So it's really nice that we've hit $50, and then we're going to see who we can give that away to. It'll be great. All right. Everybody else doing good? How's it going? How's life? I love that you guys love the bit. I legit took a foldables class. I had a foldables class in college. I think it was just a day or two, to be fair. Like, it wasn't an entire semester, but it was just, you need to learn about foldables. So they had like an entire day or two on foldables. It was great. I loved it. All right. Well, guys, I did not want to purposefully make this video a really long one. I have a huge project that I am working on, and I'm very excited to be able to share the project with you. I just can't yet. So I am going to cut this live short. I know that normally I have these last until 8 o'clock, but as much time as I can get to be able to work on that, it is incredibly helpful to me. And I just really wanted to give you guys some ideas of some things that you can be doing with your kids to kind of stimulate them and get them a little more creative with some of the lessons that we've had out there. So I hope you enjoy these projects. I hope you enjoyed the freebies that are there. If you use them with your kids, be sure to tag me. You can do the Letter to Classroom, or you can do hashtag Bridging Literacy. That way I am able to share out what you're doing, and I would love to see some of the projects that your kids come up with. They're always so fun. Kids are so creative. It's amazing. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for watching. I should be back this next week with another live chat. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button just so that we can share the love with so many other people over on YouTube. And I will hopefully see you all next week. Bye.